Cool. It's up.
The need for a more interconnected world is fueling new decentralized technologies and new ways of doing business. Hedera stands at the forefront of distributed ledgers, where every interaction is not only trusted, but fast, efficient, and secure. While traditional blockchains struggle with speed and fees, Hedera's network settles transactions in under 3 seconds for a fraction of a penny. And the proof is in the numbers. Hedera is uniquely governed by a council of the world's leading institutions, ensuring transparency, trust, and decentralization. It's no wonder Hedera is the leading choice for enterprise and DeFi use cases. Everything from real-world asset tokenization to AI data integrity. Discover the only decentralized network with the governance, scalability, and security to power the new digital economy. What future will you build?
What's going on, everybody? Super excited to be joining you all here on this Hedera stream. We got a lot to cover and some incredible people to cover it with. Today's live stream, we have May from HashPack. Welcome, May. So good to have you. We also have Irfon here. I'm trying to switch screens, and obviously it's going to not let me do what I'm trying to do. There you go. Trying to put you on the big screen here. Irfon Watkins from DOVU, and as always, we have Marquez from Hashgraph, Mr. DevRel himself in the flesh. All are part of this incredible Hedera ecosystem, and we're going to be talking about the latest developments and updates of what's going on with HashPack, a secure Hedera wallet. We're going to also go into some really cool new partnerships that are going on for DOVU as well, and I would say basically everything in between, because 1.1 billion in soil carbon assets, to the DOVU digital asset warehouse is no small feat. But let's kick it off by getting a little bit of an intro here, and we'll kick it off with you, May, if you don't mind giving everybody a little lowdown of how an amazing fighter you are and everything else in between.
That would be some kind of intro. Hi, I'm May from HashPack. I'm the CEO and one of the 4 co-founders of the company. We're the main wallet on Hedera. We serve 95% of the DeFi activity on the network. And we've been in the space since 2021. And as Action said, I also am a karate combat champion. I don't know what you would say.
Champion sounds better.
Yeah, sounds better. It was a good time. That was last year in Texas at Consensus 2024. So that was fun. You can check the clips there. On the HashPack side, we're the gateway for Hedera. We do everything retail and DeFi. So if there's something you want to do on the Hedera network, HashPack lets you do it. And our biggest focus is engaging with our community and making sure we're building things that people are excited about, listening to everybody's thoughts and concerns, and just working together to build up this wonderful ecosystem of ours.
I love it. Let's keep going around the room.
Yeah, hi, I'm Irfon Watkins. I'm not a fighter, I'm more of a lover, really. I think I'm the CEO founder of DOVU. So what we do is been on the sort of Hedera ecosystem now for a number of years. We simplify the tokenization of assets. In effect, we build an audit trail and a trust layer. But we work with corporates to enable them to bring those assets to market. And really, really excited to be here and share some of the news that we've got.
I love it. Ed.
Hey, Action. Good to be back here with May and Irfon. Can't wait to hear all the updates that they have to share with us. I'm Ed Marquez. I lead developer relations for Hedera at Hashgraph. If you're new to our live streams, Hashgraph is that organization that drives the engineering and marketing initiatives for the Hedera network. I've been with the ecosystem in an official capacity for 4 years now, a little longer as a community member, and that DevRel function that I lead is the business unit that is responsible for attracting, engaging, and retaining developers in the ecosystem. And so our day-to-day is pretty dynamic. We do things like hackathons, developer onboarding, documentation, tutorials, videos, and a lot more. So very happy to be here and hear from our excellent speakers.
It's always a blast doing these with you guys. I gotta say, we always have a ton of fun. So I apologize in advance, May, and from for what this may come to. But let's kick it off talking about what DOVU is actually doing, because if I understand it correctly, DOVU is actually helping people, tokenize, essentially, right? It's that platform that allows not only the tokenization, but also the management of environmental assets. And we're talking about things like carbon credits and other RWAs, utilizing blockchain technology, essentially. What are you leveraging Hedera for? Like, where does Hedera come into all of this?
Yeah, so just to give you some sort of background and context, DOVU started in 2017. We actually did an ICO back in the day. We were on Ethereum then. And then we had some corporate investors such as Jaguar Land Rover on board. So that was really interesting, letting them know that we were doing an ICO back in 2017 when they were a publicly traded company. There was some challenges, let's say. So at that time, actually, what we were looking to do is work with Jaguar Land Rover on connected vehicles and the behavior within connected vehicles. That went well for a little while, for about a year or so. And then we realized we were way, way, way too early in hooking up connected vehicles and, tokenizing behavior between these autonomous cars. And also, to be brutally honest, none of the team really cared about the problem that we were trying to solve. So that's a real sort of challenge. So we then took a look really at the carbon markets. And we took a look at, DLTs and what they could offer to this market that was lacking in trust, lacking in sort of transparency. There just really wasn't a trust layer there at all. And now you can't build a carbon project on Ethereum. You certainly couldn't then, and I wouldn't advise you do it now either. So there was only one game in town from that perspective, and that was Hedera. Matt Smitty is our CTO, and if anybody's in the Hedera community, they should know Matt. If they don't, then they should follow him. I think it's Flying Gazelle is his X profile. He took a look at the options around and said, look, we need to be working with Hedera on this. So that was the sort of driving force. It just so happened at the time, we were introduced then to RWAs within the foundation. Hedera Foundation as it is now, and then they were very supportive. They had a grant from the Sustainability Fund that sort of helped us sort of move things across, but also this plan of building the open source Guardian as well, and and they had a very big vision in order to achieve sort of more consistency, within the sort of carbon markets. So there were a lot of sort of moving parts that sort of made us make a decision. It was sort of easy, to be honest, at the end to make that sort of decision. For me, the other bit is consistency in so-called gas fees. So from a pricing perspective, it just made a lot of sense. If we're going to achieve our goal of onboarding the world's carbon markets to DOVU, and it really was that ambitious from the beginning, then there's going to be a lot of transactions. And what we didn't want to be doing was removing or adding cost to our customers, by having sort of crazy fluctuating gas fees that sort of power that whole sort of environment.
Got it. So you dropped the blockchain for a DLT instead.
Yeah, we just moved everything from Ethereum. Well, that's not strictly true. What we did start with is start building our core product on Hedera. We still had the token on Ethereum, because that was a different beast to sort of move that over, and all the community sort of structure and everything else. So for a while, we kept our token purely on Ethereum, and we bridged it to a few other protocols, but then we made the decision that we would move everything onto Hedera and create a HTS token, and then that would be the core. we do have that token can now be sort of traded on other protocols, but we bridge that over at the moment.
Awesome. All right, over to you, Ed, real quick. What do you think, Hedera kind of brings to the table as far as being the L1 for tokenization, to really like make RWAs a reality?
Yeah, I think Hedera is a general purpose layer 1 network, but it's also purpose built for tokenization. It's such a great fit for that type of use case because first, it provides an outstanding governance model. In fact, it's very unique compared to anything else that I'm aware of in the DLT space. So you have stable, transparent governance that is also able to make complex decisions while distributing that voting power, across organizations from different geographies and different industries representing different interests. You also have the technology component, which gives you compliance, also predictability in costs, and that deterministic finality that happens in seconds, right? So that's something very attractive for folks that are trying to build use cases that are scalable. And then you also have something that is native for tokenization, which is the Hedera token service that has built-in compliance, built-in KYC, and more capabilities, for those technically oriented folks that just make life easier. If you want to manage your tokens representing your carbon assets, for instance. And then from the technology perspective, it's also EVM compatible. So anything that you can do on Ethereum or any other EVM ecosystem, you can easily do on Hedera. And not to mention, Hedera is carbon negative. So, if you're an institution or a project that cares about sustainability, then, this is an important consideration as well, where Hedera consumes very little energy and then, means a low carbon footprint. And then we buy certified credits to go carbon negative. And then the last part is the ecosystem itself, right? You're not going to be alone tokenizing in a corner. You're in an ecosystem where people are tokenizing real estate, carbon assets, diamonds, commodities, and so much more. So I think it's a very healthy ecosystem for tokenization, and it's a great fit.
Now, talking about use cases, this is kind of important. People go out there and they make these quote unquote projects that are just hobbies that generate no revenue and really have no business in being in business in the first place. But DOVU is a little different. What are the potential use cases for what you guys are building over there?
Yeah, I think all along what we've always thought of DOVU as a marathon, not a sprint, and we've never chased the short-term sort of token fluctuations or the sort of pumping of the token to sort of match certain sort of narratives. I think so we're a team of builders, and I think the most important sort of part of that is of course you're going to be experimenting in use cases. You're going to sort of trial something and see if it fits and see if there's a sort of an appetite for it. But regarding the carbon credit marketplaces, we were always convinced that we were on the right track. It sounds a little arrogant, but the idea of not digitizing carbon assets, not having a trust layer, not being able to access them simply and easily on a global stage, we knew that had to happen, because even now a lot of carbon trading is done using Excel spreadsheets, emails, OTC deals. It's a very murky sort of environment, and that's not what you need to build trust. So from that use case, we started to work with a number of smaller projects, and then that started to grow. So we got introduced to a project over in India that was sort of working on an Indian government strategy to retire motor vehicles, and a company called MMCM. So we went over to India, met up with a team, and then put in a structure for them to be able to measure that. And that project is now sort of rolling out, and credits are being traded. And that's just going to grow and grow. And then in the last couple of years, we've been working with this project over in America called Veteran Carbon Holdings, is the name of the company. And they've been silently and quietly working away in the background on some formulas and processes to enable farmers to sequester more carbon into their soil, improve their soil quality, and increase the yield of their crops. And they've been soil testing for the last 3 years. working with a third-party verification company called B Carbon, based out of Houston in Texas. They sort of spun out of Rice University in Texas. So they're the scientists. It's their methodology. They're the ones that have been, working very closely with this project. And then they contracted with landowners 2 million acres of farmland in, I think it's North Dakota and Texas. And those 2 million acres of farmland, based on the science, should sequester about 41 million tons of carbon. And as importantly, generate sort of 5 to 7% increase in the yield, the crops that are there. What does that mean for DOVU? It means that we signed an exclusive contract with these guys. We get every credit coming through DOVU, therefore every credit minted on Hedera. And the promise of the project is to deliver at least $1 billion of incremental revenue to farmers in Texas and North Dakota for these 2 million acres. So all of that, being processed and coming through DOVU, minted on Hedera. So it's a fantastic sort of validation as a use case that is real, and it's that combination of digital and in real life, that for me makes it sort of exciting and fascinating.
I love that. And let me tell you, I have some friends in Houston, and this is the ongoing joke. So Scott over here, he's part of one of the teams that I'm on, and man, he's always excited when there's anything going on in Houston, because apparently there's only a handful of people over there. So knowing that you guys are working with people in Houston, huge plus, huge plus. But talking about announcements, like you guys have just, made this huge announcement in regards to a $1.1 billion in soil carbon assets to DOVU's digital asset warehouse. And that's a partnership with, I believe, Veterans Carbon Holdings. What's a digital asset warehouse to begin with, if we can, kind of start there?
Yeah, well, so take on the sort of process that we go through. So you've got a project such as Veteran Carbon's Holding, and they initiate a sort of a carbon project. They then get it verified by a third party, and then these after the third party have said, yep, actually they're not idiots, this sounds great, the science backs up, they send us the report and say, yeah, you've got 44 million tons of credits that you need to be digitizing. They need to be put somewhere, so, and the metadata around each one of those credits needs to be placed somewhere. So we create this digital warehouse is basically, imagine just a huge Walmart warehouse, with shelves stacked with different environmental assets or real world assets. Our job is to sort of mint these credits, stick them in this warehouse, make them searchable, make them available to be found easily, and then plug a big pipe into that warehouse, an API that goes into that warehouse to enable any marketplace around the world, any demand center, decide, they can just get these products, these digital assets off the shelf and sell them. Because the route to market isn't through DOVU. DOVU's not the marketplace. You can't have one marketplace that serves the world. So you've got language, you've got legal, regulatory sort of issues in different sort of countries. So what you need to do is just have the big warehouse, have the big pipe, and enable people to put a front end on that and customize it. And the other thing is, how arrogant would it be if we said, hey, we're going to build a global marketplace, it's going to be in English, or we'll put some Spanish on it maybe, or we'll have some other one. I mean, the world is the world is richer than that. So we need to ensure that local economies and countries can do what they want with it.
No, I love that. Let me tell you, like, so many people get it wrong in the sense that I do marketing in Web3 a lot. And my first question is like, who's your target audience? And people literally love saying, well, everyone in crypto. And I'm like, cool. So you're going to fail right off the start. That's fantastic. People don't know what their niche is, and they don't know what they're trying to target exactly. Like hearing that where your lane is, and you just want to make sure that you're doing everything possible in that lane, that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to imagine, that we've been dealing with not only carbon, and people go, "Oh, that's just bullshit." Carbon is just nonsense. It's don't believe there's no such thing as climate change. And then we're also a company that has blockchain and a token, so you can. So it's it's a real challenge.
You're fighting things on both ends.
Yeah. So one thing that we've always, and certainly our mentality, and it's definitely always been my mentality, is that I don't get into those discussions. If you don't like crypto, then I'm not going to, fine. I'm not here to convince you. And if you don't believe that carbon credits are a thing, then you're not my audience. I don't care. You can go on a chat GPT and find out, if it's a thing or not. So, so I think about finding the target audience. It's about, avoiding unnecessary stress, by trying to talk to people whose ears are closed. And, they've got to earn the right to listen to my pitch. And, it's, I don't see it, not the other way around.
No, that totally makes sense. And ultimately, I've had these discussions myself, and it's like, I don't care if you believe in this or not. Let me tell you, people are paying. There's money to be made. So this is definitely something on the global scale that is actually making a difference and making an impact on tons and tons of different companies, organizations, and even nation states. So this is something that you just can't leave off the table. But talk to me about this partnership, because that's a big deal. That's a lot of assets. Let's not call it money.
Yeah, no, it's well, it's money to the farmers, so it's really
Yeah.
important. So it is money, absolutely. The farmers, sign up with Veteran Carbon Holdings in order to generate more revenue. Now you've got to look at sort of farmers have been under massive strain right now. You've got changing weather patterns, global trade wars, cost of living crisis, increased sort of supply, cost of supply. So they're under a lot of strain globally. And so any new revenue stream that you can provide to them, is gratefully received. Now, what's exciting about the Veteran Carbon Holdings is that this is just 2 million acres. It sounds a lot, and well, it is a lot, but it's 2 million acres and there's a heck of a lot more acres than that of farmland globally. So, what they've created and how their methodology and science sort of stacks up is scalable globally. So it's that relationship that we continue to, we're working with on projects in Australia, there's projects in Europe. So, this is the start of a really strong relationship with that organization, and you're going to see a lot more there. And it's like anything, when you get sort of momentum, suddenly you start to get a lot more income in. It takes one, to get things moving, and that can take years. It's that classic, takes years to have an overnight success. It takes, and then suddenly, one does it, and then the next one does it, and the next one does it. And it is strange at this time that we signed this deal for over $1 billion. Hedera signed a deal with Vera, to sort of to digitize Vera's methodologies. Now, for anybody who's unfamiliar with the carbon markets, Vera account for 65% of the global carbon markets. They're the number one player for verification and methodologies. So for Hedera to sign with them and for their methodologies to be digitized and put on the Hedera network is huge. And it's also huge for DOVU, because we can then leverage those methodologies, use them, and offer them to projects as well. So everything is sort of falling into place, but it's taken a number of years to do so.
All right. So this is like way bigger deal than most people actually realize. Talking about the minting aspect of it, are all of these credits going to be minted right on Hedera using your DOVU OS?
Yeah, so the way that we mint the credits within the Guardian is that every credit is actually an NFT. It's non-fungible. 1 credit equals 1 ton. And the reason why that's important is because the danger is that if you do it on a fungible, what you end up with is the fear of a subprime market for credits. They get fractionalized, distributed, pooled, and then you never know actually where the original carbon credit comes from. So it's really hard to sort of trace all of that back. By having it as a fungible token, then then you can build an audit trail and that sort of trust layer on the token. DOVU OS is actually our cost model as to how we actually deliver it. So underlying is Hedera, the hash graph. Sitting on top of that is the DOVU token. So when a client wants to use our services, they will be paying for it in DOVU tokens. Now, the great thing about our ecosystem, as you were talking about earlier, is that we can work with some fantastic partners, some great wallets. May and HashPack are the leading ones, of course, great partners of ours. And then we can start to look, it's becoming a lot easier to onboard corporate customers into our world without the need for them to have private keys and sort of some of the other elements in there. So our job is to sort of strip that away and create a frictionless approach into the market. So DOVU OS is the underlying platform, basically, that sits on top of Hedera that powers access to all of our range of services.
All right, Ed, let me bring you into the conversation here just for 1 second. Sounds like they're going to be taking up all the bandwidth that your DLT can actually handle. Or is this it, or you got room for more people to join?
Nah, there's always more room. So when it comes to bandwidth, maybe you're also talking about throughput, and so there's 10,000 TPS that the network can process at the native level, and so there's always room to grow that number and to welcome more use cases. So and then it's more nuanced than that as well, right? Like there's different throttles for different transaction types. So I think the more the merrier. And if you remember, Hedera does have that ability to scale not only through the hash graph algorithm to process more than 10,000 TPS in a single shard, but also through sharding, right? Which effectively would allow infinite horizontal scaling for the network.
Yeah, no, that's a huge deal. I mean, the fact that people can actually do a whole lot more than meets the eye when it comes to Hedera is actually a huge point that I don't think people talk about enough. But mate, let me bring you to the conversation, because HashPack allows users to do a lot of this stuff and interact with a lot of different things happening on the Hedera network. I mean, you're talking about not only managing HBAR, but all sorts of tokens, NFTs, and right there on the Hedera network. And I really do want to make sure, we emphasize the accessibility for both new users and experienced developers alike. I got my first HashPack wallet while I was standing around with a bunch of people just, talking about Hedera, and Postmaster actually got a huge shout out to him. I'm like, hey, Postmaster, which kind of wallet do I want to use on HashPack? And he goes, this is how you do it. Literally like a couple of clicks and I was in. How does all of this actually reflect on the product that you're building? Like, how easy is it for users? Obviously, there's my story. I've been in crypto for well over a decade, so I didn't feel it had a lot of friction. But how are people receiving it, and how are you taking care of new users coming in?
Yeah. From the beginning, we've always aimed to create a simple experience for users. And like Irfon said, frictionless is sort of the key word here. Just make it so easy that you just do what you want to do, and you don't have to worry about private keys or seed phrases or that kind of thing. So as a non-custodial wallet, we do have those options, but we also have email logins, and we are hopefully going to have more in the future. But that is something that we have to build. But definitely, like, making this as easy as possible for people to do things on Hedera has been our focus. We've built a lot of integrations into the wallet, so you can trade, you can stake, you can go onto NFT markets and like put your NFT out for sale inside of the wallet itself. And we have a dApp browser that lets you access the entire ecosystem. So we make it really easy for users to do things on the network, but also we are also involved in the developer side. So we're involved in work groups across the entire Hedera ecosystem. We've written the NFT metadata standard that is used like in basically every wallet, every marketplace. I don't know about DOVU, because DOVU is a special beast, but hopefully it uses HIP 412.
If it hasn't, it will now.
But it's just basically a standard way for viewing NFTs. and creating NFTs. We also helped build the Hedera Wallet Connect library and just other things that we're just like deeply involved in. And more recently, we built something called hashgraph.vote. It's a voting site, and it's about engaging with the community. And we built it as an open community tool, so anybody can create a poll and vote on things. And we're trying to get projects to come in, and if they have to make some kind of decision which they need community input on, they can use hashgraph.vote to do it. And we have a governance aspect to HashPack and our pack token that is involved in that, and it's token gated and weighted by what you hold. So it's a really cool tool. Check it out. But this is also, like, if you talk about accessibility, this is also right in line with our way of making things easier for people. It's like, it's not just about the technology, it's not just about the platform, it's about what it is, how accessible are the platforms to you as a user, and how can you get your voice heard by projects in the ecosystem. So we also built that as well. And also recently, Wallet Connect, their parent company called WeOwn, just announced that EVM support in Hedera is kicking off, and HashPack is a main wallet that supports that, and it's opening up Hedera to more capabilities, making it easier for developers to build on Hedera and all that good stuff.
All right. Now, you took this to the next level, though, and now you didn't even mention this one, but you unveiled a native agentic AI assistant in the wallet. Like, that's a huge deal. Like, can you go over maybe what are the functionalities that these agents have? Like, what is it that it can help the user do? What kind of information can it provide the end user?
Yeah, it's a user experience sort of thing, right? If you want to find information about what you can do on Hedera, or what are information about your accounts or the tokens that you're interested in, it's a lot easier to type it in a question to an AI and have that AI come and give you the answer than to look it up on various websites. Maybe you don't even know, you're new to Hedera, you don't even know what websites to look at. So the AI can help with that. So we have things like being able to do token analysis. Don't read too far into that, but basically, like, what's the current price of a token? What's the current trend of it? What's the security rating on it? Like, does it have minting and burning keys, or a mint key on it? Things like that about the network, about accounts. You can find information about that, or like, how much do I have staked, or how do I stake things on this network? The AI will be able to answer that. And then even going further into functionality, we showed off in our CTO's Twitter account, creating a transaction in Hedera. So, like, please send 100 HBAR to account 0.0.12345. And then the AI reads that, interprets it, and then puts out a transaction that you can then approve. And it's directly in the chat window, and it's basically human in the loop. It creates the transaction for you. You don't have to navigate through menus. And I think this is a really exciting thing that I think AI will unlock across all different technology, like apps, is a new way to look at user interfaces. So we're experimenting with that too.
All right. Now, this must open new, opportunities, especially for partnerships. What do you see as far as this AI assistant, creating opportunities for, integrations, or even future applications on HashPack?
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz in Hedera right now around AI stuff. Consensus, which was last month, basically, like, every conversation we had an AI element in it. And so one of the big ones is data analysis and gathering. And we have our friends at HGraph who are doing a lot of work on building out tools that let you ask questions about what's going on the hash graph, or analyze trends, or build out queries so that you can then put that into your app. Things like that make it easier to develop as well. We have friends at Hashgraph Online, Michael Cantor, and also Ty Smith, who are building out standards for developing AIs and infrastructure for actually making these models adhere to regulations, adhere to privacy, those kind of things. So we're building out tools with them, or helping them out with that. And then just like integrations into the DeFi ecosystem, I think are right on board with this. So like if you want to bridge, maybe you ask the AI to help you bridge to another network or bridge in from another network. Or if you want to do borrowing and lending on Bonzo, maybe one day we have an AI assistant that helps you with that. And we'll have to see how deep the AI goes. I think right now, at least with this current state of AI, we're going to have human in the loop for all of these things where it says, okay, well, this is what you asked me to do, and here's the action that I take. Is this what you wanted, right? Definitely there is a world where AI just takes the wheel, as it were, and just drives you around, and you just kind of like say, this is where I want to go, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and it's there. But I don't know if we're there yet, but definitely we're right on board with building up to that point.
Now, obviously, things are moving so rapidly in the space, and I love when the markets are going sideways because it allows everybody to not look at the markets and focus on the tech to see how we're actually going to get to the next level. So this is like fun time for me right now. And talking about this evolution of our industry as a whole, like what role do you feel that HashPack can play in increasing user access to things like RWAs?
Yeah, I think that, so DOVU, it's great that you had DOVU up before us, because he described DOVU as a digital asset warehouse. So he creates the assets and then he gives access to those assets to marketplaces, and the marketplaces go and sell those assets to users, right? Where do those users hold the assets? The question is, the marketplaces aren't going to create a wallet. That's not what their role is. So there's got to be somewhere to hold it. And it doesn't matter what you call it. It's essentially a wallet, a place that you hold assets. And that is where HashPack's specialty is. And since we're building on Hedera, we have the expertise in Hedera assets and all of the good stuff that comes with Hedera HTS tokens. And we are definitely interested in that realm. So I think that, as all of these worlds converge, AI and RWAs and NFTs and real world assets that are now being digitized, I think that wallets have a huge place in that. And that is what I'm excited about for HashPack.
All right, give us that pitch though, May, because I know you're good at this. Like tell people why they should be working with HashPack when they're tokenizing their assets, and why, use you guys over anybody else.
Well, so the first one is easy, is that if you're building out a way to digitize assets, or you're building out digital assets that you are going to be selling to users, you don't want to have to also have the responsibility to build out the thing that the user has to hold it. I mean, yes, there is something like, if you have a Starbucks loyalty system and you're giving out Starbucks points and stamps, maybe you have your app that all of your assets live in there. But when you start moving into bigger things and real things, then you don't have the ability to just keep all of your assets in your platform. It doesn't work like that. I mean, if it does, that's great. I think that user experience is really, really good. But if you want to move those assets in a more broader market, in a decentralized way, then you need a wallet to do it. And these people who are building assets don't have the desire to build a wallet, and that's why you need an expert like HashPack that is building out wallets. And as for why build with HashPack, I think our results speak for themselves. We have 95% of the DeFi ecosystem on Hedera. We work with all of the top teams on Hedera that are building out these assets, and we hope to build out the experience so smoothly that they can just do what they want to do, which is create and launch assets and sell them to users, and they don't have to worry about their users of where they hold it. The users will just get that experience and make it super, super easy.
And May can knock you out if you don't do that. I'm totally joking. She would never do that to you unless you're mean. Ed, let me bring in this conversation just real quick, because there's a ton of different kinds of use cases around here, and I want to get a better understanding of like what potentially could be when we talk about these tokenized RWAs. What are some of your high level, let's go even as far as calling hopes and dreams to see on the on Hedera's DLT here in the near future as far as RWAs are concerned?
Yeah, actually, I think everything will be tokenized. Just like we saw a lot of records and systems of accounting go from paper to digital databases, I think that is going to continue to go in a more transparent and decentralized way. So things are going to go from these siloed databases and closed systems to blockchain networks like Hedera. Now, that's not going to apply to everything in the strict sense, but there are even things that can benefit from going to a hybrid approach, right? Like not everybody can go to a public network, but there are use cases that have maybe data governance requirements, privacy requirements that still benefit from the auditability and traceability of blockchain technology, but then would like to do so in a private permission way. Either way, tokenization is going to be an essential component for the management of assets in both of those paradigms. And so in terms of use cases, things that we're seeing today is tokenized real estate. You know, one example there is what Red Swan is doing with high value properties, right? And so they're democratizing access to premium real estate and opening up those investment opportunities to, you know, obviously KYC folks, but it makes the pool much more accessible when it comes to the investor pool that can go to those assets. You also have the tokenization of money market funds. And so that is what we've seen Aberdeen doing with support from Archax, you know, tokenizing money market funds to revolutionize traditional finance and open up those investment opportunities. And then you have other things like commodities with Diamond Standard, who I mentioned before. And I think, I've had very interesting conversations exploring the technical feasibility of tokenizing things like media rights and contracts and facilitating the enforcement of those rights and contracts through the programmability that we see with blockchain networks. And so I think, again, tokenization is going to be phenomenal to give that traceability and auditability. It's also going to help with the liquidity of assets when it comes to the issuer side, but also helps with the accessibility when it comes to the end user or investor side. I think tokenization is also going to help with facilitating value transfers. So for example, if the asset you're tokenizing deals with cash flows, one thing that I love to mention about DLTs is that money now flows like information, value flows like information. And so you can program those cash flows, those value exchanges directly with logic, which, I think is a new paradigm with DLTs. And then there's also all the secondary market things that you could do with a token representing your asset, right? Whether you want to use it as collateral or maybe do DeFi with that token representing your ownership of a building. I think all of those are possibilities that are very real now with tokenization on a ledger like Hedera.
I love to hear that. Now, how about you, Irfon? Because you're in this game already with RWAs. Like, are there friends, partners, and other other items that you'd like to see tokenized that you think might be just around the corner for us?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and actually it sort of follows on from the use of assets, that we're seeing. Once something is tokenized, you have a bit more sort of flexibility. There's interesting conversations that we're having where some organizations want to use the assets that we have in the warehouse as collateral for stable coins. So, it's a really interesting play, that is. And also, take out loans against those assets so that the projects can get paid sort of earlier than they would. So there's a lot of flexibility that can come sort of around that. But one thing that we learned as well was that the platform that we built, it doesn't differentiate between carbon credit or any other real world asset. So the problem that we solve is the same problem for any digitalization of an asset. So speeding up the process to create a workflow, speeding up the process to create a methodology, we're solving the same type of problem there. The speedy digitization of that asset and then the tracking of that asset through a whole process to create an audit trail. So we're going to be sort of launching a thing called Blueprint, which is the ability for anybody to publish a workflow. It's leveraging expertise, basically. You don't need to be a developer. You can sort of publish your workflow. That workflow will be published in like an app store that we'll have within DOVU. And anytime somebody wants to use that, they'll get paid in DOVUs. So they'll earn royalties for every time that it's used. So they connect the wallet into it, and it'll, the benefit will drop into their wallet, HashPack, I'm sure, and then that every time it's used, it'll be it'll benefit them. So and that's all then, sort of powered by DOVU sitting on Hedera. So we're already into, and you can see actually if you take a look at our socials, you'll see some use cases where Matt Smitty's, our CTO, has sort of spun up some workflows around Wagyu beef, the British driving license, the process to get that, coffee, a whole range of different things as examples to show how quickly you can do that. And actually you can spin up a workflow in minutes, publish it, and then start digitizing those assets. So we're really excited about that. And I think it's a great platform to enable as well corporates. Now that could be governing council members or others to spin up a POC really quickly without and start to use Hedera to showcase that off, within the governing council organization without them having to allocate dev resources and big budgets to get those POCs moving. So yeah, we're really excited about that.
All right. If anybody is going to digitize Wagyu beef, please, I would happily be part of that team. Great advisor when it comes to meat. I'm originally from Brazil, so have plenty of experience from the butchering to all of that. So just let me know. I'm here for you. Email will be down below wherever y'all can find me. But yeah, really excited about some of those things. I think Ed's going to take care of the coffee part. He said he's down to advise for those people over there as well. We're doing more than just, going into straight on RWAs. May, for you, for example, like we're talking NFTs in your wallet as well. And again, one of the other reasons why I like things going sideways, people stop looking at hype and PFPs and start asking, what are the actual use cases? What can we use with this technology for? What can we do with it? So what are some additional like real world NFT use cases that you foresee coming up maybe in the next year or two here?
Yeah, it's a very good question because NFTs have largely been tradable or speculative assets, and that is how the public perceives them. But there's just a lot that can be done with something that you can say is, actually an asset that can't be copied, or it can be confirmed to be like, this is the one copy of it, or the 500 copies of this one thing. I think that there's a lot of room for innovation as people develop the tools to build those out. An easy one is collectibles that are, about the brand that you're collecting. So like, think about comic books, for example. There's a huge comic book industry, maybe not so much in 2025, but back in the 2000s, collecting comic books where you get the like limited edition pieces, things like that. You can build that out with NFTs, and there's a few creators on Hedera that are doing comics on Hedera, and they're using those comics. Like, for example, one of them is using their comics to give their viewers votes on what happens next in the story, for example. So that's some innovative use right there. There's also just like when we talk about real world assets, things like everything that DOVU is doing, I think is great. Their blueprint system is like magic. It looks really slick. So I'm really excited to see that come to fruition. But also things like digital identity, that's going to be a huge thing. And we're already talking to teams that are building out those money market funds and commodities that Ed is talking about. So there's definitely a momentum that's building in this space. And we definitely want to be on board to start serving those use cases, because as soon as one company starts building out those kind of NFT use cases and starts seeing success, you'll then see everyone else come in and take advantage of that success, right? And build out the same technology for themselves. So hopefully it will all be on Hedera.
All right. Ed, I want to go to you because I don't want to tell people that I own hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of comic books. Nobody needs to know about that part of my life. Any use cases you can see on your end?
Well, now they know, Action, but that's not a bad thing. When it comes to use cases that I think are going to be realized with NFTs, let me take a step back. I think with NFTs, we saw like your typical adoption curve where, there was a lot of excitement and hype. We thought NFTs were going to solve every problem. But then, there was that trough of disillusionment, and, people kind of went back and reflected what is actually feasible and what are the real problems that we can solve with this technology. And so I think now we're getting out of that, and people are realizing very good use cases where NFTs are, a good fit and a strong solution, right? I think and that's all reflected by the great work that Irfon and the DOVU team are doing, everything else that May also mentioned. And then I think looking forward, we're going to see some of those use cases that perhaps before we analyzed, we were very excited about. And then we're going to revisit some of those conversations. I think maybe dynamic NFTs are going to come back, hopefully in gaming, hopefully in areas like real estate, where you can maybe trace the history of an asset through that evolution of properties for your asset that is tokenized. Looking even further, maybe a year or two, you never know, this is not a promise, but I think perhaps AI agents managing assets that they produce through tokenization would be really interesting. So if I have an agent that can produce very good music or the best cat images, what if I was able to embed in my NFT license terms and usage terms for that set of assets that agent can now produce? I think that's going to be really interesting in the area of overlap between AI and tokenization. But yeah, I think going forward, we're going to see hopefully NFTs play a more critical role in tokenization of assets rather than just the hype that we saw back in 2018, 2017.
Yeah, I'd much rather see that, because that was a wild time, and the amount of money I spent on gas back then was a little too much. May, two things for you. We have some people asking questions. Is HashPack fully compatible with Ledger?
Yeah, yes, on the desktop side. There's issues with mobile devices, but on desktop it works.
Got it. Okay, so people that are excited, like Nicholas here, that they got HBAR in their Ledger wallet, they're going to be able to utilize that same wallet on their desktop.
Yes.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Now, for developers that are obviously listening in, because Ed kind of attracts people like that, it just happens. Where can you get more info? Where can you find out more about this stuff?
So I'm going to show our docs at docs.hashpack.app. We've written it to get developers a head start in Hedera. So we have demo apps, guidelines for using Wallet Connect, and other things that help you to build out your first dApp as simple as possible and just get rolling. And then it's also worth checking out Hyro.org, which is the Linux Foundation organization where Hedera's codebase is held, and also hashgraphodline.com, which are the HCS standards that are also being rolled into Hyro, that are the standards for an on-chain internet. The hashgraph.vote site that I mentioned before, which is the on-chain governance site that we built for the community, the standards that the voting runs off of are posted in the HCS standard repos. So those are the three places that I would check out to kind of get started in Hedera and start learning about it.
Love to hear that, and I'll be sure to make sure that these guys put some links in the descriptions. That way people that are watching this back will be able to take a look at it. Let me keep this conversation going, because there are a few things I want to kind of hit on. Ed, what are you working on? What's Hedera working on? Are there any announcements, any big events, anything that people should be aware of that's coming up here?
Amazing things are happening, action all across the ecosystem. One thing that we announced recently was AI Studio, and we're working on that AI Studio to, make it more accessible and more powerful. So the initial announcement, what it was covering was a collection of components. So think SDKs, an MCP server, and other plugins to enable you to build agentic applications on Hedera. And so stay tuned for that. Right now there's a website or a page on our website where you can go and get more information if you're interested in, learning more about that AI Studio that will be coming out with, a revised version very soon. We also are working on hackathons, as I mentioned in the opening intro. So if you go to hedera.com/hackathon, you'll see that we have an upcoming one from July 7th to July 25th. That's going to be $150K in prizes for the winning teams. And that's going to cover opportunities or provide opportunities for people to work with AI Studio, to work on tokenization, and a few other areas. So you're more than welcome to join that and come build, innovate, and experience the Hedera network. And there's also events, right? We're always having a presence in events, talking to developers, talking to builders, founders. And so the next ones are going to be ETHCon. So if you're going to be in France, be sure to join that event. It's going to be a fantastic hackathon with a lot of ETH developers. And then we're going to We Are Developers in Berlin, which is going to be a fantastic opportunity to speak to enterprise devs, traditional devs that are building things in your traditional set of verticals like finance and much more. And last but not least, if you haven't checked out the Hedera Developer Playground and Contract Builder, those are fantastic places to get a quick feel for what it's like to work with Hedera, to get started building. And you don't even have to install anything. Just go to your browser, go to hedera.com/playground, and you'll get a feel right from your website on what it's like to submit your first transaction or your first contract to the Hedera testnet, hopefully in seconds. So that's what's going on.
Love it. And we have been having some comments come through that I want to highlight. And I think this one is going to link between you and DOVU here. So here's what we got in from LinkedIn. We are streaming to multiple platforms right now, guys, just so you're aware, from your Twitches of the world to X to YouTube. We're basically everywhere. So we have well over 20,000 people across all these different networks actually watching this stream. So the question here is, I'd love to network with your information and privacy risk teams, learn more about the company and applying digital asset management and AI governance and regulatory change control. I'm architecting systems for this capability in my company and would love to share ideas and learn. How do people go about actually, getting in contact with you guys and figuring out how to make things work, how to maybe partner and, kind of get things going to collaborate?
I love that question. Irfon, I'll let you go first, and then I'll share what we can do from the Hashgraph side.
Yeah, well, for us, it's, there's a contact us page on DOVU.earth. My socials are open. You can, my DMs are open. If anybody's on social, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm fully doxed. So it's not hard to find me. There's not many Irfons around. So yeah, easy to find. Send me a message and I will respond.
And I'll just put this up while you're on screen real quick. Good to see you guys. Congrats on that 1.1 deal. Kind of a huge deal. So congrats, brother.
That's amazing. Action from the Hashgraph side, I would say, marketing at hedera.com is a great place to, ask these questions. And then what we'll do, we like to be proactive. And so when we get comments from these live streams, we'll get in touch with this LinkedIn user to have some follow-up and, establish the right connections with, our privacy team and so on. But I get the sense that probably a hybrid approach could be an interesting topic to explore in that conversation. But to summarize my response, we'll follow up. And if you have any questions, marketing@hashgraph.com.
Love to hear it. I want to go back to talking about DOVU here, because we did get this interesting question about, will DOVU interact with AI agents as it relates to DOVU OS?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, so one of the things that has sort of driven this asset warehouse, this digital asset warehouse, is how are people or things going to discover these credits 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe 1 year from now? The ability to, trawl, discover, find credits that you're interested in, or any real world asset that you're interested in. It's going to be a robot doing that. You got to make the data accessible. You've got to make, all of that available, not for humans. And ultimately, I think May was alluding to the idea that AI will start to have some agency around making some commercial decisions as well. So you need to build a warehouse that's future-proofed. So right, from an AI agentic perspective, that's really important. From a, as I say, for the supply and the demand. The other bit is, what you need to do is speed up the process of getting these assets ready to be digitized. So all of the metadata, all the elements around it, and you need to remove the need for, you need to get ordinary people, for want of a better term, into the equation. And so we do that already. So right now, as I say, if you're a project owner and you want to get a project initiation document sort of going before you can start to mint your credits, that costs tens of thousands of dollars. Will take you months. You need to find a consultant that will do that for you. So we created about probably 8 months ago now an AI sort of tool so that you can just use normal language and it'll spit out a project initiation document in minutes. And now that speeds absolutely everything up. And then when you apply that then to the AI element of workflows, and then you start to plug that into all the other bits, we've got a system, and just to put things into perspective, we've got a team that's under 10 people. So we use technology right now to deliver, $1 billion contracts, and are able to sort of scale that up because, we deliver, we deliver solutions based on the products and the technologies that we're sort of trying to sell or we're sort of pushing forward. So AI agentic sort of elements are just a key part. And again, finally, what May was saying as well about wallets holding assets and then wallets transacting with assets, that's going to happen, so people will go in, they'll want to either hold that asset for future use, or they'll want to retire that asset, or they'll want to trade that asset. We're not going to be doing that. That'll be wallet doing that, and that'll be ultimately an agent doing that based on an agreed set of behaviors that have been defined by the owner.
All right. So, wow, this is actually a really in-depth question here. So, tokenizing various pollutants and chemicals, not just carbon, especially when combined with end-to-end supply chain tracking via blockchain, oracles could be a game changer for environmental accountability. This is a big one. So basically, why not do both sides of the equation here? Is what I'm reading that as.
Yeah, why not? I mean, and that's what our platform's built for. We're not scientists. I'm not sitting here saying this is the best way of doing it. This is not the best way of doing it. You can't be a global expert, and we're certainly not. Our job is to create the tools, the platform, and the infrastructure to enable individuals who have a better understanding of that question than I do to create a workflow and create a process, and tokenize it, measure it, and sell it.
I love that aspect of it. I mean, people come into the space a lot of times going, we are going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, cool. Are you building the product or picks and shovels? And I love talking to both of you because you guys are really focusing on those picks and shovels, essentially allowing people to build out their dreams, allowing people to actually go after the things that they care about, the things that they're interested in, as opposed to trying to, create and build the back end to support whatever it is that their ultimate product is going to be. With that, I got to ask, what's next for you guys? Just because there's a lot of things that kind of go on in the space, and I want to know, where are y'all headed? And I'll start with, let's go to May. May, what's
Sure.
next for HashPack?
There's a lot of stuff that we're doing. We're really gearing up to hopefully scale, and hopefully start delivering a lot of interesting products. We're very excited about the AI side of things. We just launched hashgraph.vote, and hopefully that leads into other things. So yeah, there's a ton of things to do on the wallet side that I really want to start tackling. We meant the comment mentioned things about pollutants and things like that. I haven't heard about pollutants being tracked on blockchain, at least on Hedera, yet. But I think that those teams that are interested in doing that, when they see success or they see avenues to do it through, say, DOVU, will be able to start doing that. And once those teams start building out those assets, then there needs to be a place to put them. And I would love to talk to teams who come in and want to build that sort of thing. So, for example, there is a team that I have talked to for the past few years that is building out workplace health and safety certifications and tracking that. And that's not exactly environmental pollutants, but it's sort of in that sort of area of certifications and tracking things. And so, yeah, they're building out their product. They're trying to find clients or government agencies to work with them. And I'm sure that one day we will see those agencies looking for a place to store those certifications once they are minted, right? So a lot of things to work towards so that we can enable this kind of economy and this kind of technology, and very excited to be part of that.
Now, you make a great point, and I have way too much experience here because I was the chief operations officer of a summer camp program that ran globally. So different states, they require different certifications, and they don't actually confirm it unless there's an audit, which is just crazy to me. So if we're able to actually have things, on chain, on a DLT that can be verified by these different entities, that's a game changer right there, because you're actually allowing people to be compliant and not have the, to utilize all this manpower to go out there and like literally check a piece of paper. Like you must have it printed inside of a binder. It's crazy to think that nowadays that's still a requirement. But yeah, I mean, so many different opportunities and possibilities here that we can leverage this tech for.
And also, just like you're not going to have a person checking a binder, it's going to be an AI agent that just checks to see that you have the certifications to begin with. The onus of having a person spending time to go and check every single thing, that friction is going to be removed, right? So then the ability to confirm compliance is going to be so much easier, which means that you have to be able to prove compliance, which means you have to have the tools that can do it with trustlessness and verifiability. So that all is going to come. It's not yet there yet, but it's going to come pretty fast, I think.
Oh, I believe so too. All right, let's talk DOVU. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, on the compliance and sort of using technology and so on. So, if you're managing, let's say, 2 million acres of land, you need sensors in the soil to detect how the soil's performing. You don't want to be going out and doing soil sampling across that. We have projects.
I do that at home. Sorry, the nerd in me. I'm like, I have LoRaWAN with sensors all over my place for exactly that. So I know at a grand scale, that's definitely a huge help.
Massive, yeah, and we work with projects in Bolivia where we take the data from satellite image, so satellites are providing the data on the project. There's a sort of latency, like a 5-day latency really in terms of real time or not. You're there looking at LiDAR, then you're using AI to sort of analyze the information that's sort of coming back. So that's happening right now across the DOVU platform, and we're looking to see how that sort of scales, further on. So for us, it's about, I suppose executing on this deal is a priority. You close it, that's the beginning of the relationship. So we need to bring that in. We're expecting the first roughly about 190,000 credits to be landing and minted in early July. That's the target right now. We're reliant on the project to send it back to us, but and then it'll start to sort of to ramp up. But the bit that so that's exciting. And then, as I say, we have other projects all around the world that we're working with as well. But it's this blueprint thing from a tech perspective that it really excites me. This idea of creating workflows and enabling those workflows, to generate royalties forever. So this idea of, if you're an expert, put your expertise online, create a workflow, publish it, and then make it available, to be used. So it's like an open source, workflow, but you're always going to get paid. And I think that's just going to open the floodgates for different use cases that can then be created within, within DOVU and of course on Hedera. So we're really excited about that. And Matt Smitty's our CTO, and the team are sort of driving that. And my job is to get out of the way, basically.
Isn't your job also to ensure that you're getting the best possible partners to work with you guys?
Yeah.
This is your moment. Do that pitch. Do the pitch. Everybody's listening.
We're always looking for we are always looking for partners to work with. But partners are everything. Look, all we do is we plug in sort of elements, pull them together. You look at it's built on Hedera. We rely on HashPack. We've got so it's all about partners, and the more partners that are ready to join that sort of ecosystem, the better. And we just want to focus on doing the one thing well, really, speeding up the digitalization of assets. and we'll use and work with, you know, every partner that we possibly can. And it's, you know, I will give a shout out as well to the Hedera Foundation. The team there have been great. Wes is fantastic and has been a great supporter of ours, you know, right through this sort of journey. And you know, it's exciting to see as they bring in on more partners how that'll benefit all of us as well.
No, absolutely. And again, I think that one of the reasons why I love the Hedera ecosystem as a whole is because of not only partnerships, but how people just get along. It's really a matter of like trying to uplift each other and figure out, okay, how can we work together to create an even better ecosystem for people coming in? We're still early. I don't know how else to say this. We're still early enough to where I don't think anybody is competition. It's a matter of figuring out what, you know, what person is doing what well so that you can work alongside of them, because there's plenty of opportunity out there. Right now, we're at this phase where I want to see more people come in. I want to see more people grow in this space. And the more we can do for each other, the better off we're all going to be. I guess I just got one last question. Any final thoughts from you guys? Anything you want to share that maybe we didn't cover? Because there is a lot of people excited about what you guys have been up to.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm just following on from what you just said, right? You know, what I love about the Hedera ecosystem is that there's a lot of great builders. You know, there's less speculation and more building, and that you know, we may lose out in the short term from the Hedera ecosystem on the speculation, but we're going to win because we're building things that have a real impact and make a real difference. And I think the going back to the marathon, not a sprint. You know, I fundamentally believe that DLT and I think hopefully we're getting to a phase where we can use crypto again. I like crypto. I don't like Web3. You know, we hid behind Web3 because nobody wanted to wear an orange jumpsuit. You know, and it's a sort of it's crypto and, you know, decentralized ledgers. Love it. The great builders at Hedera, great community, and yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's the number one on the list for most people. It's stay out of jail, then make money, right? That's usually how the line of like priorities are going down the line. But go ahead, May.
Yeah, I'm super optimistic about Hedera. Everything that I hear from people who are building, everything that I hear from the projects that are coming in and trying to build up the space and trying to build up interest and excitement in Hedera, I think that it's all going in a very good direction. So I'm hopeful that things will be really, really good. If you want to get in touch, hop in our Discord at hashpack.app. There's a link to the Discord in the website, or say hi and follow us on our Twitter, which is at hashpackapp. Get in touch, be a part of the community, join us and build together. That'll be a lot of fun.
They reply, they engage. So that's like, yeah, somebody that you should be engaging with on these platforms for sure. Thank you two so much. It's been a pleasure getting to not only hang out with you, but getting to know a little bit more about what you guys are up to, what you're working on, and what your thoughts are, and, you know, as far as RWAs and NFTs in general and where we're headed. And it sounds like we're pretty aligned. So everybody listening in, make sure you're following these guys out here so that you can keep up with what they're building and the next things that are coming to the Hedera ecosystem, because this is just getting started. There's a lot more to come, and I just can't wait to see where we go from here. Thank you two so much. It's been a pleasure, and we'll definitely have to catch up to see where things are at, and hopefully a couple of months.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you too. You guys have a great one. Take care, everybody.